Ah, the internet, bringing rapists, pedophiles, and donkey shows all to your living room at the click of a button. And with the rising concern of the dangers that lurk online, it really shouldn't be that big of a surprise that topics like cyberbullying and online predators have practically become their own genres. This movie is something that I almost wouldn't even talk about for two reasons. First of all being, it's really not a good movie. The second reason is I only found this film by a fluke. Of all the lists of movies I've read about online, this movie never showed up on any of them, and I happened upon it while looking for something to watch on Netflix. This is for the most part your typical found footage film, which, if you know what that is, you're probably already rolling your eyes. The sad thing is, it's not that these films almost never come out well, it's that no one ever knows how to make a good one. The characters are usually either inhumanly obnoxious, or the camera shake is enough to make you motion sick within the first few minutes. When I saw this was one of those movies, I watched it because, hey, something to laugh at. And for the most part, I got exactly what I expected. Until the last 22 minutes. And now the forewarning. Unlike my last review, this film actually does deal with some disturbing subject matter that may offend, so, as always, ye be warned.
We didn't lie to you folks. We told you we had living, breathing monstrosities. You laughed at them, shuddered at them, and yet, but for the accident of birth, you might be even as they are. They did not ask to be brought into the world, but into the world they came. And now, folks, if you'll just sit this way, you are about to witness the most astounding living monstrosity of all time.
Our movie revolves mostly around these two characters here, Megan and Amy, who are close friends, despite the fact that Megan is one of the popular girls and Amy is not. Within the first few minutes, it's established that Megan, well, she gets around.
Virgins don't know how to wear makeup.
Your boots are so...
Like you haven't. I see the stash you carry.
So he's pressed up against me and I can feel it. And it's like, huge.
I don't see what the big deal is anyway. Just fuck some guy and get it over with.
But Amy's more on the well-behaved end of the spectrum. This will practically get beaten into your head with every dialogue exchange between these two. Another thing we learn is Megan's home life is less than ideal.
Damn it, Megan, why didn't my program record?
I unplugged the VCR to use the game box and I forgot to plug it back in.
You forgot? You forgot? I worked 12 hours a fucking day to buy you that box, and all you want my cheese!
But Amy's is the exact opposite. In an attempt to make her one of the group, Megan invites Amy to go along to a party, but it doesn't go well.
Oh man, you need to teach her. You need to teach her a couple things, man. Say you're okay. You're not fine.
Stop!
Fuck you, bitch!
And after Amy vomits on some of the guests, they go home and have a very creepy conversation about how she gave her first blowjob when she was 10.
Tell me. I was at summer camp when I was 10.
You were 10 when you did it?
Do you want to listen to this or not?
I know I lost my virginity at my senior prom. When'd you lose yours, April?
When I was 10.
Moving on.
But it gets worse from there. The next day, while playing with Amy's new camera, she reveals, for some reason, that her stepdad started raping her when she was 9. What's actually disturbing about this scene, though, is while what she's describing is very obviously rape, mostly because she talks about how she tried to tell her mom about it, but also because of the obvious fact of she's 9, she never calls it rape. What she says is he started fucking her when she was 9. This is an incredibly depressing moment because after that, she pretty much admits that she's accepted that being a sex toy is her lot in life.
I'll pretty much do what you want, but you have to tell me that you love me.
The next day, Megan is introduced to a new online friend named Josh, who is supposedly a boy around her age who loves skateboarding and lives nearby. After chatting with him for a bit, she decides that he seems normal enough and tries to meet up with him at a party.
I was just wondering how it went with that guy. Was he cool?
He wasn't there. He was a dork. I looked for him for 4 hours.
Too bad. What was his name?
Josh the jerk.
Because I was there.
Okay. If you were there, then what was I wearing?
Well, you had on a really sexy little jean skirt and a black top with gold trim and black high heel kind of sandals, and I think you had a butterfly clip in your hair.
Even normal guys don't notice that much. But she buys into it and schedules a date with him, and even asks Amy to talk with him a bit on the webcam. However, the following day, when Megan doesn't show up for school, Amy becomes suspicious.
That's so good. Have you heard from Megan at all?
No, I was gonna ask you the same thing. We were supposed to get together last night, and she never showed up.
Is she a runaway, or is she the victim of foul play? No matter which way you look at the facts, one fact remains. Megan is missing.
Ha-ha! Name drop! The next few scenes mainly show Amy keeping a video diary of her thoughts and feelings during this, and probably the most shocking reveal of the movie lies in this one scene.
I keep expecting her to call me any second. I sleep with my cell phone next to my pillow.
That's a Motorola Razr! They don't have video chatting! So, a lot of this found footage shouldn't even exist! After some security footage surfaces showing Megan being led away by a man, Amy contacts Josh and asks if he knows anything about it, but Josh quickly becomes mean.
You have one friend who left and didn't tell you where she was going because she didn't want you tagging along.
You don't know who I am.
I know exactly who you are, Amy. Megan told me all about you. How pathetic you are, how you follow her around like a little puppy. You're like a big joke to her.
What did she do to Megan?
Nothing. Nothing she didn't do with 100 guys before.
She immediately responds to this by going to the police and telling them about how Megan had been chatting with him just before she vanished.
What do you want from me?
I want you to shut your big fucking mouth. And if you still feel like yakking to the police, I may have to pay you a visit. Or your mom. I'm watching you.
A few more days go by, and after Amy receives a threatening message from Josh, photos of Megan appear on a fetish site. This is where the movie starts to get really dark. Amy manages to make her final entry on her video diary and ends it only to be kidnapped. The last 22 minutes of this movie are the most notorious of all of it, and it was what put it on my list. Unfortunately, the biggest problem I have with it is, while it is disturbing, it almost feels like a cut into a different movie entirely. We go from a really bad liar on the internet, a group of slutty girls, and a community that thinks ribbons and inaccurate reenactments will help save people, to a fucking torture chamber? This guy just happens to have access to his own underground torture chamber? The remaining found footage is recorded by the kidnapper as he takes himself tormenting Amy, raping her, and eventually leading her to her demise.
Over here. Just need you to get in this barrel, so I don't want you to see where I lay, okay? Okay?
After stuffing her into a barrel along with Megan's corpse, the last 10 minutes of this movie is, and I'm really not joking here, watching him dig a hole to bury her in, and then watching him bury them. Every single shovelful. And with that, the movie ends. How was it received? There's a lot of mixed reviews on this film. Most of the people watching it either claim it's the most disturbing thing they've ever seen, or it's the worst movie they've ever seen. The big problem springs from the fact that the director, Michael Goy, claims that the movie was intended to be a message movie about the dangers of online predators. Whenever a movie is created to deliver an important message, there will always be people who jump on top of it and support it, and it doesn't matter how bad the movie actually is, it's the message that matters to them. I grew up in a Christian home. I had to watch my fair share of Christian cinema. I am very familiar with films that sacrifice quality in order to try to deliver a good message. But here's the other problem I have with that. The last 22 minutes. Most parents are not going to show their kids a movie with a rape scene in it, or half the content found in the last 22 minutes. The most disturbing parts of this movie are simply not excused away by the intended message of the film. At least, this seems to be the argument of the people who didn't like this movie. What makes it disturbing? The last 22 minutes, obviously. The rest of the movie feels like another shitty found footage horror flick, up until the last 22 minutes where it suddenly becomes torture porn. But what bothers me most about it, personally, isn't so much the content, but rather the fact that this doesn't feel like the same movie. It just doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the movie. The way that everything was building up, especially the way they made Josh's character when he was lying online, I was expecting it to be like more of a typical kidnap, find the corpse later type thing. But a fucking torture chamber? I guess it's meant to be a lesson of the harsh truth that you really don't know who you're talking to on the other end when it comes to online chatting, but wow. However, here's where it gets a little more disturbing. At the beginning of the movie, we're shown this. And if you're like me, you naturally immediately assume, yeah, based off something someone may have said at one time. However, the director, Michael Goy, who's been known for his cinematography work on shows like The Mentalist and My Name is Earl, had connections with police investigators who he relied on in the past for technical advisors. And after working with them long enough and hearing plenty of bleak stories involving missing persons cases, he became interested in directing a movie that would warn children and adults of what could be waiting for them on the internet. Supposedly 7 cases, though, were used to help construct the stories of what happens to Megan and Amy. But probably the most fucked up part about that is the ending, what happens to Amy, was inspired by what happened to a 9-year-old. It doesn't matter at this point how much I felt that the dark ending just did not mix with the rest of the movie. It doesn't change the fact that this still happened to someone's 9-year-old kid. The sad truth is, while I understand what the director was trying to do and the message he was trying to send, it doesn't change the fact that so many elements in this movie just don't work. Michael Goy supposedly spent a lot of time around teenagers to become familiar with how they talk and interact with each other, and at times this is done well, but at others not so much. And again, the most annoying problem with this film is people don't record this stuff. People don't record themselves dialing on a phone that doesn't even have video chat to begin with. Webcams don't keep recording after a web chat is over, and using the webcam as a mirror doesn't mean the camera is recording, it's just turned on. Part of the challenge of a found footage film is working around the obstacle of the story only being told when the camera is on. But making the camera stay on and recording all the time is not the way to cross that barrier. Hasn't earned its reputation. Again, I only found this movie by a fluke. It didn't even have enough of a reputation to appear on any of the lists I went through. But once I did finally see it and went online to read more about it, every single page mentioned the last 22 minutes are the most disturbing thing you will ever see. Do I agree with this? No, I've seen worse. But I will agree that it is still disturbing. I definitely had a sick twist in my stomach when the fetish photos of Megan first show up, and the end concept of being buried alive with the rotting corpse of your best friend painted a mental image that has yet to leave my mind. I really can't imagine a worse way to go. Okay, actually I could, but I really don't want to. In conclusion, this movie is very, very, very mild compared to some of the other things I saw when I started doing this. But if it weren't for the ending, I probably wouldn't have even mentioned it. I've pretty much said all I can about this movie, so I shall leave you here, freaks. Take care.